Hello, church. So, welcome back for our devotional for Thursday, July 9th. We continue and pick up in Song of Songs, chapter 2, verses 1 to 7, for our final portion in this section that Juanita Weems, I think, entitles um, Comparisons of Love. Shoot, I just lost that. I compare you, my love. And so we have this back and forth conversation between our two lovers in Song of Songs. And we're going to hear that back and forth again in this portion of scripture. As I was preparing and reading over some materials just a few minutes ago, I was struck again by Weems' comparison of the love lyrics of Song of Songs to blues as a music genre. Because it's very much one of those things that we can, identify and study. We can look at song structure, we can look at chord progression, but there's something deeper that it evokes, and it's moving us to express something in a different context. It's moving us behind this academic and head understanding to feeling something, and to this reality of heart and this response to music. You can study blues, you can play a 12-bar chord progression, but there's something about it that draws us in, and very often, in my experience, kind of picks us up in the midst of struggle. And it's that undefinable thing that we really work around, which evokes also when we were having our chili cook-off competition. I was just making a reference to the reality of chili, and that for most people, that their recipe has become this off the page thing. And there's most people who are making chili are doing it to taste. There's accents that they like to bring up, but there's this thing that pulls it together, that melds it together, and that element is part of what we need to be paying attention to. What we can't define, what we can't know, is very often what we need to be paying attention to. If that was too heady, I apologize, and Weems will say it better. But she was there were some very academic parts too, so wanted to kind of set that context. So here are our chapter 2, verses 1 through 7 in the NRSV. It likely, one of the opening phrase is going to be a familiar one in our ears, which you'll spend a little bit of time with too. And again, we have our female sage, her lover responding, and then some continuation from our sage. I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. As a lily among brambles, so is my love among maidens. As an apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his intention toward me was love. Sustain me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. Oh, that his left hand were under my head, and that his right hand embrace me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the wild does, do not stir up or awaken love until it is ready. So for both, Rose of Sharon might be a familiar phrase. That lily of the valleys is captured in kind of an old Sunday school hymn, the lily of the valley, the bright and shining star. And Weems gets into that a little bit. I'll go ahead and preface that part, though, with for both the NIV and the NRSV, they give us a footnote at the Rose of Sharon, and identify it as crocus. So that's a more literal translation. And then Weems will get into some of the deeper stuff. The popularity of verse 1 in Christian traditions as a metaphorical epithet, as a metaphor for Jesus, makes it disappointing to have to admit that we do not actually know much about the plants mentioned in verse 1. The King James Version translates them Rose of Sharon and Lily of the Valley, and modern translators tend to follow suit, which is true here, just footnoted. Ancient versions have not been helpful in determining the precise plant life cited. The problem is that the rose is actually a late transplant to the region, and there is no evidence that lilies ever really flourished in the area in any abundance. Nevertheless, it seems certain that the protagonist is feigning modesty when she compares herself to a flower among many, namely to one of a number of flowers that grow in Sharon and in valleys. Her lover counters that, in fact, she is more unique than she gives herself credit. Indeed, she stands out among her peers, and that's verse 2. She returns the compliment in verse 3 by reminiscing or fantasizing about rendezvous that turned into love feast. The Hebrew is literally wine house. On those occasions, she exclaims, his intentions, as seen in his eyes or glance, are unmistakable. And this is the concluding part of her reflection, and I think a good word for us as we follow our faithful devotional life in Song of Songs. We have no transcripts of what were surely the many lively discussions about the propriety of including the ribald poetry of Song of Songs in the biblical canon. We are left only to wonder how it made its way into Scripture. How did this book get included? Based on what criteria did those responsible decide it qualified as sacred, holy writ suffused with divine truth? It is unlikely that Psalmic authorship alone warranted its inclusion in the canon. The astute reader perceives something more. Its tale of love, courtship, compassion, intimacy, longing, and mutual delight resounds with many of the elements that characterize, according to the larger biblical drama, God's dealings with God's people. Bawdy, titillating, cryptic, and bordering sometimes on the lewd, as the book may appear, the lover's unpredictable love affair, which the poet tries desperately to capture, characterized by halts, jerks, lurches, twitches, and inconstancy, shows remarkable parallels with the history of the relationship between human and divine love. Powerful lessons await its readers. Seeing our relationship with God through the eyes of frustrated but desperate lovers, however baffling their behavior, forces us to ponder the powerful emotions underlying the divine human bond. What it means to be demanding yet fickle, desperate but timid, what it means to wound those we love and to be wounded by love, what it means to disappoint those we love and to be disappointed by love, and what it means to be hopelessly attached to each other and trying to hear what the other is saying. The Song of Songs provides its audience glimpses into two human beings' efforts at perfecting human love and building intimacy and the lessons they learn about themselves and each other along the way. I was also thinking about this dynamic that you might have experienced as we age and as our parents become, as we have that shift from parent and child relationship to those of mutual understanding and learnings, and the reality that we hear, sometimes more than we are comfortable with about our parents' relationship. But also the importance of recognizing affection, of seeing things that are private and intimate and need to be honored. The other expression of that is finding those moments of quiet love, not when we're shouting out to the world, but just when we're in these moments of exchange and sharing and personal, private connection. Those are all good things. All right, so that's it for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow as we continue in chapter 2, and hope you are enjoying our journey thus far in Song of Songs, and that your blushing is becoming less and less as we continue to move through these pieces. Have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow.